The ban list is finally here. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's Taylor coming at you from the Cardmarket studio on this 35th of August 2024. We finally have a new ban list to talk about. It's finally here. Is this the ban list that will save modern Yu-Gi-Oh! From all of its problems? Some people certainly hoped that would be the case. I won't necessarily say yes or no to that, but it addresses some problems, some not in the way that I would like, but we're here to talk about it today. So we're gonna start with the unlimiteds and work our way up to the bans. I'm sure that's what everyone's interested in, but we'll start from the bottom, work our way up. I'm not gonna talk about every single card because not every single card deserves to be talked about, but I'll just highlight a couple things on the way. Starting off with Armageddon Knight, which is kind of a nothing pick. It's going from 2 to 3, which usually doesn't do anything. I just really like Armageddon Knight. It's one of my favorite cards from this era. I do remember when this was in a lot of decks to the point where it did get banned. Of course, nowadays, you know, a summon to Foolish a Dark out of your deck is not as powerful as it once was, but I do really like this card. I think it's a very iconic card for any sort of dark strategies from that time. And it's fun to see it back. I'm glad they didn't have to like errata the effect, give it a once per turn or whatever just to bring it back. Which, speaking of which, they did do for Plush Fire. Plush Fire is going from banned to 3 copies, which is a pretty huge change. The reason it's doing that is because they are errataing the text to give it a hard once per turn. Now the problem with Plush Fire is a special summon from the deck with no once per turn on it is obviously very strong, especially for a pendulum monster, which in general, pendulum strategies tend to recur their cards a lot. So you add in specialing pretty much anything you want from the deck over and over again, that's really good. So giving this a once per turn makes sense. In general, I'm not really a fan of these types of erratas where they change the effects of cards just in order to unban them. I kind of would prefer they just stay on the ban list and we can remember them as what they once were without tarnishing their legacy, if that makes sense. You know, just make a new card, like a retrain of Plush Fire that has a once per turn or something like that. You know what I mean? You don't have to go back and change the old cards. I hate when they do that with, you know, cards like Chaos Emperor Dragon. It's like, come on, man. Like, we didn't need that off the ban list. That could have stayed there for all eternity. We could have just waved to it every time a new ban list came out. Say, hey, you still there, buddy? Yeah, doing great. Anyway, erratas like that are kind of silly. That's my point. And then, also unlimited, we have Time Seal. Time Seal has been the longest standing worst card on the ban list for as long as I can remember. It's a pretty hilarious card to try to evaluate because at first you think, oh yeah, skip their draw phase on their first turn, that's really good. But because of how traps work, and you have to pass your turn first, they immediately enter their draw phase. Then you activate Time Seal, which means they aren't skipping until their next draw phase, which is like turn 4 or whatever. So much worse than a new player might initially think. Yeah, this card could have been unbanned probably 10 years ago. I don't know. It's strange that it was on there for so long. And then they put it to 1 for some reason, like a year or 2 ago, I think. As if it was gonna break the game. They didn't want to release it at 3. So that was pretty funny. But I wonder what the new worst card on the ban list is. I would have to look at it again, but you guys let me know. What is the currently worst card that is either limited, semi-limited, or banned? And moving on to the semi-limits, here we go. Cards at 2 copies, we have all of the Dragon Rulers. Once again, these cards could come back at 3. I don't think anyone's gonna lose their minds over a Dragon Ruler deck popping up in 2024. In terms of 2014 Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whenever it was, that deck obviously was very strong. I don't think it quite holds up to modern decks today. Like, if you read the Dragon Ruler cards with a modern context, you know, they're all once per turn. They have a lot of like cost and restriction to them. Obviously, they do like recur and you can use them again and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't really see a place for Dragon Rulers right now. I think these at 3 would be fine. Unless Dragon Link finds a way to use them maybe, but even then, level 7, what do they have for rank 7 XZs? It's like Tomahawk's Band would be a big one. I don't know, like Big Eye or something, but anyway. Semi-limits are kind of funny. Cards at 2 copies, it's like, they should either be at 3 or at 1 in most cases. And Dragon Rulers are one of those cases. Then we have Thunder Dragon Colossus, which is an interesting choice. I don't think this is a huge difference having 1 or 2 of them, but it's one of those cards that's kind of like this big walking sort of floodgate type card. It's not really a floodgate, but stopping searches obviously affects a lot of modern decks. So if this starts creeping back in and goes to 3, like, is it gonna start popping up again? Are people gonna have like little mini Thunder engine again mixed in? Get your Thunder Dragons going just for the Colossus. It's a card that can be pretty annoying to a lot of people depending on the deck you're playing. So it's interesting to me, some of the later hits, as we see, and in the last ban list, we're getting rid of some of these as like generic extra deck boss monsters that have these sort of floodgatey, omni-negate type effects. But Colossus is creeping back in. And I know it's not entirely generic or it's not entirely a floodgate, but it is kind of, it's weird. It's like this weird dynamic between the two ideas. It's like, are we getting rid of these or are we not? So I'll be interested to see if Colossus starts to make a splash here soon. Then we're on to the limits. Like I said, just highlighting kind of the main cards from the list. But if you want to see the whole list, you can check the pinned comment down below, click the link and check out the full list. And, you know, I'm skipping over the cards I don't have much to say about, but maybe there's a card you have a lot to say about. So let me know in the comments. We need to talk about Gimmick Puppet of Strings and Dark Strings. I know I just said I'm only highlighting cards I want to talk about. These cards I know are involved in an FTK. I just don't know how it works. So if you need 2 of these each, or like 2 of one and 1 of the other in order for the FTK to work, this is a great hit. No one likes being killed on the first turn of the game with nothing they can do. But if you only need 1 of each, then this hit literally does nothing. So I'm going to give my faith to Konami and say that you probably need at least 2 of one of these 2 cards in order for the combo to work. But I'm a little bit blissfully unaware of this combo. I haven't really had to deal with it much. And when I do, I'm not really paying attention. That's the Yu-Gi-Oh way, right? Do your combo. I have no hand traps. Go for it. And then the big one. The big one. Ash and Poplar go to 1. Snake Eye hits. Can you believe it? It's the moment we've all been waiting for. And this is good, but it's not great. This doesn't by any means kill the deck. It's still going to be really strong. The problem with putting Ash to 1 is Snake Eyes, it has a lot of starter cards already. So hitting one of those starters to 1, it's kind of just like, okay, but if you have Yubel Star and Wanted and Bonfires and like all these different cards that get you to your combo, putting one of those cards to 1 copy, it's like not as big of a deal as a deck that only has like 1 or 2 starters. So that's a little concerning. I feel like the deck is still going to be very, very strong. Poplar to 1 is also nice. It makes it so, you know, your long games, you're grinding things out. It makes the deck a little bit worse in that way. And it also makes it really funny if you draw Poplar on turn 1 and then you can't search for it. Like that will feel pretty bad. But even still, I just feel like these hits don't really reduce the power level that much of the deck. Maybe that's just me, you can let me know, but it's one of those things that we've been dealing with Snake Eye for so long at this point. I feel like people are so tired of seeing it. And a lot of people wanted the deck just dead as soon as this list dropped, which I didn't really think they were going to do, but I mean, I feel like that's what a lot of people are waiting for. So we will talk a little bit more about some hits to the power of Snake Eye in a minute, but Branded Fusion also goes to 1 copy. Poor Branded. their whole deck revolves around this one card, and now here we are at one copy. Obviously it's a very good card, and it's like really strong, so I see why it's hit. It's just really funny how reliant the deck can be on this card. So normal summon Albert and Chain Imperm, it's like, okay, I'll set one pass, you know what I mean? Like, you're just not gonna see Branded Fusion outside of the search as often. I really would have liked to see some sort of Sanctifier Dragon, Gimmick Puppet Nightmare combo ban. Like, maybe just get rid of Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. Do we really need that card? That's the really feels bad moment against that deck, if you ask me. So when they Gimmick Puppet Nightmare you, it's like, that is a non-game right there. You are not playing Yu-Gi-Oh at that point. So it's weird for them to sort of address Branded, but not like actually address what I would say is like the problematic line of the deck. But anyway, Branded, you're okay. Yeah, no hate. Branded players, keep doing your thing. You've persevered through a lot at this point. You'll be okay. Then we have Opening of the Spirit Gates, which is Yubel card, obviously. I honestly, between Snake Eye and Yubel, I really find Yubel not as bad to play against. I think it's kind of like a cooler deck mechanically or like thematically, I guess. It's sort of hard to explain, but I just don't mind the stuff Yubel does as much as Snake Eye. All the, you know, continuous spell monsters into the back row kind of stuff that Snake Eye does. I'm just like not a huge fan of that. But Yubel, it's like, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. It's got good flavor, good theme. Phantom of Yubel's a cool card. Do your thing. Like, GG, you got me, but like, do your thing. So yeah, this makes sense as the hit. It's not like they were gonna hit Phantom or anything. So I think this is a good little slap on the wrist for him. I like it. Then we have Sangen Summoning, also goes to 1, which is so tricky because Tenpai is like, it's fine, but it's not like that good right now. And it's one of those cards that's obviously a huge reason why the deck can succeed. But it's also just bad card design, in my opinion. It's one of those cards that just says your opponent can't touch your stuff, and those cards are very annoying. So in my opinion, the less of these cards, the better, but you can't ban the card because that kills the deck. And it's just one of those weird things. I'm like, I just wish they wouldn't design cards like these because it makes the game so much harder to balance in like a healthy way, because the deck needs this card, but it just sucks to see it and play against it. And at 1 copy, you are still going to see it and it's still going to be annoying. In a way, it's going to be more annoying than if it was at 3, because if it's at 3, you can just expect to see it. At 1 copy, it's like, oh, they got the 1 copy, or they got the search for the 1 copy, and like kind of an eye roll. So did they deserve it? Maybe not, but in my opinion, the less of these cards, the better. And finally, we have Pot of Prosperity to 1 copy, which feels like it should have happened a long, long time ago. I don't know, maybe like last year, this could have been a hit, but I feel like I'm seeing Pot in a lot less lists as of recently. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think anyone was jamming 3 copies at this point anyway. I feel like I haven't seen this card very much. Maybe I'm crazy, but finding 1 slot for it obviously is a lot easier, but even then, I feel like a lot of people are cutting it at this point anyway, because there's just other stuff going on. The format is just crazy at this point. So, like I say, could have seen this a while ago, but they wanted to get their reprints in, I guess. And we have Skill Drain, Floodgates going to 1 copy. Love to see that. Skill Drain is an interesting one because it bounces all over the place so much. It goes from banned to 3 copies to 2 to 1 to banned again to 3 copies again. It's like all over the place. It's the one Floodgate that they don't seem to know what to do with it. So if nothing else, it's being treated like all the other Floodgates that are at 1. So that's nice. I don't know, these kinds of cards are always just really annoying and make sort of these non-games happen a lot of the time. So I don't know. I don't see why this one bounces around so much. They should just keep it in line with the other ones, in my opinion. And that's what they're doing right now. So good job, Konami. Thumbs up from me. And last but not least, we have Grass Looks Greener, which is amazing. I know I might be a little too optimistic to say I love that this card is back, because I know the decks revolving around grass can be pretty annoying sometimes. But in my opinion, any sort of like alternative deck build, sort of alternative strategies that the game can have, I love to see that. I think it's really cool. It's cool design space. You know, is a mill 20 necessarily the healthiest way to do it? Maybe not, but I think as long as the power level's in line, it should be okay. If you're not playing like full power pre-Banlist tier elements or something, I think grass is fine and fun. So I'm actually quite happy to see that one. And finally, we're on to the Forbidden cards. So first up, we have actually a Fiend Smith card. Fiend Smith Lacrima, is that how you say it? Maybe. This is kind of shocking to see. Infinite Forbidden is like barely over a month old, and we have a Fiend Smith card down to 0 copies, which is really great, because I didn't really think they were going to do this. And it's great that it was this one particularly, because that burn for life point damage is so annoying in a tournament setting when you're in time and you just need to do damage. If you already have your Fiend Smith combo, like you're just going to go into this, deal the damage, win the game, which is super, super annoying and feels bad. So it's nice that they were able to hit this. It's cool that they didn't have to hit like the main engine, quote unquote, of Fiend Smith in order to have an impactful hit. Obviously, this is something Snake Eye uses as well, so that's cool. I just also think these sort of burn effects on cards like this that you can go into so easily are just like not great considering the competitive rule set of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just so weird how the like damage in time thing works anyway. So to have cards like this that just give you free damage, it really just rubs salt in the wound a lot of the time. So glad to see this guy gone. Maybe we'll see more Fiend Smith cards join him in the future. Then we have my highlight, which is Appaloosa is finally banned. I was gunning for this one. We had our discussion video talking about the Mulcharmies and the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! And how all these generic boss monsters that are Omni Negates need to go. They started it with Baron de Fleur and Borlord Savage Dragon. And here we are with Appaloosa as well. We knew it was next on the chopping block. I actually didn't think they were going to do it in this list. I thought it would probably not be until next list. But I'm happy to see it here. I'm tired of seeing it in my games. And also, Snake Eye uses this as a Nibiru blocker. So what they would do is they'd make Appaloosa as their 5th summon. Suddenly you can't Nibiru them anymore, and then they can just make their whole board. So now, I'm not sure they really have a way to play around Nibiru in the same way. Not one I can think of off the top of my head, but they're gonna probably figure something out to deal with that, because now they have no choice. They have no easy Appo, which I love. I love the idea that Nibiru might actually be a good hand trap against this deck now, because they do tend to go so wide and so fast that Nibiru could really help you out in that way. Without Appo, thumbs up. I think the least amount of generic boss monsters that negate activations or effects or whatever you want to call it, like all of those need to just slowly be tapered out of the game, in my opinion. And then we can give boss monsters to archetypes. So every deck you're playing against has a different boss monster and they all feel different, unique, and cool, and they can have powerful effects. That's fine. Just one man's opinion, that's all. I'm quite passionate about that point for Yu-Gi-Oh! And then we have Beatrice as well. This is another card that, because of the Fiend Smith level 6 shenanigans that were going on, Beatrice, we hardly knew you. Caught in the crossfire. Sorry to say it, we all knew it was gonna come. Many people were talking about this happening. Many people wanted this to happen, and it did happen, which I'm super happy about, because a lot of the time, people talk about what card is obviously going to be banned, and then it doesn't get hit, and everyone's upset. So I'm glad to see that this one actually did get hit. Obviously, a very strong card, especially with the level 6s of Fiend Smith. So I hate to say it, but you won't be missed. Maybe we'll get some sort of retrain for Burning Abyss at some point, and that would be cool. But as she currently stands, too generic, too easy for Fiend Smith to take advantage of. And last but not least, we have Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. What a mouthful. Just another big boss that says your opponent can't play the game. You read the text on this card and it's like, really? They put all of this on this card? Quite literally says your opponent can't use effects for the rest of the turn. Like, that's a crazy effect. Not as generic as some of the other cards like Borload or Baron. So that's a point in its favor. It could have stuck around. You don't see it as often, but when you do see it, man, oh man, you're like shaking your head. It's a crazy card. So still glad to see it go. Like I said a million times before, these types of effects are just very, very annoying to deal with. And the less of them, the better. Yu-Gi-Oh is at its best when it's back and forth, interaction, mind games. Do I negate this or that? Where's the stopping point in this combo that I can, you know, get them to just end it there? Like, do I bait their negate with this card first? All that sort of stuff is really, in my mind, peak of Yu-Gi-Oh! So cards that just say your opponent can't do this and 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 can't do this. It's like, come on, man. Just let us play some Yu-Gi-Oh! That's all we're here to do at the end of the day. And that's the list. So overall, I think Snake Eyes was addressed. Obviously, I would have liked to see some sort of other hit, maybe Flamberge Dragon. I don't know, like that's a card, if you ban it, you kind of kill the deck. If you put it at 1, they're still comboing in the same way. So how much does that really matter? It's a tough situation for sure. But I'm excited to see what the format brings. We do have a lot on this list that it's gonna change things up. Snake Eye will probably still be at the top if I'm gonna be honest, but that's not something we aren't used to at this point. I guess that's just what Yu-Gi-Oh is just Snake Eye. Let me know what you think of the list. And like I said, if you want to check out the full changes, you can check it in the pinned comment below. And yeah, if you want to see more discussion type videos like this, let me know as well. It's something new I'm trying here, just a quick little ban list discussion. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now. Am I really going to try to play Thunder Dragons in 2024? I'm not saying I'm not going to do that.